Welcome to Monday, November 18th, 2024. Your day with the podcast brought to you by Converse County Tourism. Douglas and Glen Rock, Wyoming are bustling with action this holiday season. Plan your excursion, including fun activities, beautiful downtowns, and historic treasures. Learn more at conversecountytourism.com. The weather across the region and across the West and really across all of the United States is going to get pretty busy. Two storm systems to contend with. It's actually two storms becoming one. We'll show you that here in a minute. But we're going to be looking at just a lot of different weather. Some areas are going to just be cold and windy. Some areas are going to get snow and be windy. Some areas are going to get rain, then get colder later. We did see that split storm go through the Rockies and High Plains over the weekend, producing some snow showers and snow squalls on the plains and in the mountains, as you see in that photo there, and moisture in the northern and western areas. Now, the storm that split and went south is going to cause widespread rain across the southern plains into the central plains today and tonight. A little bit of snow on the back edge of it. There's going to be a push of cold, moist Pacific air into the Pacific Northwest and northern and central Rockies today into Tuesday. This will produce snow in the mountains of northern and western Wyoming and the mountains of Montana and Idaho in the Pacific Northwest. There'll be a little bit of snow shower activity on the plains, and then there's just going to be a lot of wind. Winds are going to be picking up and be a nuisance. They're going to be strong, and they're going to be cold winds in some areas. Then the storm sort of comes together again over the far northern plains. So North Dakota, parts of Saskatchewan and Manitoba, you're going to have a small snowstorm in the sense that it's not going to be a huge snowstorm in terms of tons and tons of snow, but accumulating snow, sharply colder temperatures and wind chills, and strong winds, your first real taste of winter in parts of the northern plains. Then the storm is going to quickly go into the Great Lakes, re-intensify, and become a pretty good storm for parts of the east central and northeastern United States. They're going to get their first real taste of winter with that storm, while high pressure kind of builds over the Rockies and High Plains briefly. But then a very interesting pattern is going to evolve. A very strong, moist jet stream is going to be coming across the Pacific, into the Pacific Northwest, then tracking further south into California, then into the central Rockies. It looks like this forms this weekend into Thanksgiving week. So what's going to happen is that's going to put us in the western United States in a colder regime. And could a winter weather pattern be evolving? Less fall, more winter? It certainly looks like it. We'll show you why we think that. Before we do that, though, we have some more beautiful and awesome photos to show you of sunrises and sunsets and beaver moons across the region from the past several days and past the weekend. Look at that photo. Just a wonderful opportunity with that big moon out there and those beautiful high and mid-level clouds, a lot of lenticular clouds putting on a show in the mornings and the evenings, and a beautiful lenticular there in northern Wyoming late last week as the winds aloft continue to increase as we go closer and closer to winter. Busy satellite loop this morning. A lot going on here. First of all, here's the southern part of the low that split and is now in New Mexico and is headed up to the north-northeast. So under this cloud shield here, you're going to see a widespread rain forming. We're already seeing that. Here is that cold push of moist, cold Pacific air coming into western Idaho, western Wyoming, into Montana. Then look at this. You see this streakiness right here? These are very strong jet stream winds going across the North Pacific and this speckled area. Anytime you see these speckled clouds out over the Pacific like this is when some very cold continental air is getting pushed over the water and you get very unstable air. So you get basically just a lot of areas of rain showers pushing into the Pacific Northwest coast and British Columbia. So you have strong jet stream winds coming in, cold, moist air coming in. This will just be a rain factory for the Pacific Northwest. Now, it loses a lot of its punch as it crosses the mountain change, but it's going to be driving in some moisture into these areas right here over the next 24 to 48 hours. Then this piece of low pressure here, this piece of low pressure here end up coming together and reforming the storm by tomorrow into North Dakota. And you can see on the satellite and radar loops, here's the radar showing that widespread shield of rain moving through, and then you can see that axis of snow moving into northern Nevada and Idaho. Then you can see the moisture just coming in, and notice the moisture gets extinguished, a lot of it east of the Cascades there. But we're also up in Canada here seeing what we call overrunning, where the moist air from the Pacific overruns the colder air on the ground. So lots of moving parts to the weather this morning. So this is the 500 millibar chart showing the low kicking out into the plains. That push of cold, moist air by noon into the region. So for you folks up into Montana, western Wyoming, along and west of that black line today, mountain snow, wind and snow showers down low, and falling temperatures. These are those strong jet stream winds I just showed you on the satellite imagery. This is going to start to be a configuration that I'm going to show you more of in the coming days. Because what will happen is we're going to have a persistent, strong northerly jet stream in the north and central Pacific. And at times it's going to be hitting the coast at a more straight angle, at times more of an obtuse angle. But we're just seeing a lot going on here in this part of the Pacific wanting to form strong jet stream winds and storms in the North Pacific coming into North America. This is the precipitation forecast for the next 24 hours. Good rains out here on the plains. You'll get a little bit of snow on the far back side of it, but this is a pretty warm system. This moisture up here is what's going to get driven in by that cold, moist air from the Pacific over the next 24 hours. And if we zoom in, same image, just zoomed in a little bit closer so you can see more detail here. So Yellowstone, the Tetons, the Beartooths, the Bighorns. Out here on the plains, you're going to be starting to get some snow developing as well, but you can see it's a real mountain-based event mostly. That's what the snowfall looks like through the next 24 hours. Then the wind. Well, we're going to have high winds along the I-25 and I-80 corridor of Wyoming today. Travelers keep that in mind. Strong winds in the foothills west of the Front Range. Strong winds up here as the front approaches the mountains of southwest Montana and northwestern Wyoming. This is by 5 p.m. tomorrow. We talked about the lows coming together as one. There it is. It coalesces into a storm over North Dakota. The storm intensifies and gets better organized. Then it becomes elongated because of that really strong jet stream I showed you. It just stretches it out that it wants to reform and consolidate the low over the Great Lakes. So what will happen here midweek is there's going to be a little bit of a break of high pressure here in the Rockies. This is going to become a strong storm in the Great Lakes and Northeast. But notice the tight gradient right here. See this? That's those strong jet stream winds rotating around this low. Keep in mind, when you have strong winds like this perpendicular to the continent, you're going to drive a lot of moisture and snow into the mountains of central northern California into the Pacific Northwest. And then we'll see how this whole area of cold, moist air evolves as we get to late in the weekend and into early next week. Because this guy right here is probably going to start instigating that winter pattern. So there's going to be later mid to a week, probably let's say Wednesday, Thursday into Friday, a little bit of a gap in the weather, a little bit of a warm up, not too much going on, but windy. But you're going to have a lot of weather further off to the north and east. So this is the second phase of the storm. As that second phase of the storm reconsolidates over North Dakota, you can see the counterclockwise curl there of the moisture. So on the back side, you're going to have some pretty nasty winter weather here with snow and wind and cold. Snow will come out over here as well, mostly rain on the northeast side of this system at the moment. We call this wraparound snow. Cold northwest winds will wrap snow around into parts of northern Wyoming, the mountains of Colorado and southern Wyoming, in the cold northwest flow behind it. I talked about those strong jet stream winds just driving moisture into the Pacific off into the coast. There it is right there. So that's the 48-hour period of Tuesday and Wednesday. That's what the snowfall looks like. So going to be kind of raw in this area up here, cold and windy on the plains on the back side. These are the temperature anomalies by 5 p.m. tomorrow. So it's going to get a lot colder. You factor in the wind, it's going to feel a lot colder with the wind chill. And there's the wind as the system organizes up there. So folks up in the Dakotas, eastern Montana, northeastern Wyoming, going to just be raw. This is the best way to describe it. Then when we look at what happens here, so you can see the Great Lakes and parts of the Northeast are going to see their first winter event of the year. Notice this is the 2-day period of Thursday and Friday. That's that little break right there as that high pressure comes in. But notice all of the dark colors moving in northern California into southwest Oregon, then even pushing into Idaho and northwest areas of Montana. This is what's coming later. That's what the snowfall forecast looks like. And notice overrunning snows over Alberta, parts of Saskatchewan, and parts of northern Montana. This is going to especially be true by Friday into Saturday. Look at the Sierra Nevadas. So we're starting to see some significant winter weather signals showing up here now. This is by Monday. That big area of low pressure I showed you right here later in the week starts to come down, and basically what it does is it comes down along the coast, bringing strong, moist jet stream winds into the Rockies now. Cold air has access now out of Canada into the Pacific Northwest and Northern Rockies. This is going to lead to, later in the weekend and into early next week, an increase in mountain snow. This is by Wednesday, so the day before Thanksgiving of next week. We're starting to see the high in the eastern Pacific, the high in the southeastern United States. There's going to be a lot of cold air available. If this configuration happens, then Thanksgiving week is going to be cold, and we're going to see moisture driven into the mountains. This is the type of pattern that if you're a skier and a snowmobiler, this is what you want. This is exactly what you want at the end of November, because this starts to build the snowpack in the mountains. You don't get a lot of moisture on the plains, but this is what really is important for the high country to start to generate that first really good layer of snowpack. As we'll show you here, look at the cold if this develops. This is by next Wednesday. So we'll see. We'll see if this comes together. I think the odds of it coming together are pretty good. Of course, we've got to sort out the details, the fine details later. So Thanksgiving week, we're going to keep an eye on things for sure. This is the precipitation forecast for the 3-day period of Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. So this is that very strong, moist jet stream action. Basically, it's just driving moisture off the Pacific into the interior west. And this is where the mountain ranges, if you look where the heavier moisture is, it's going to be over the mountain ranges. This is overrunning, starting to build up some snow up into southern Canada, northern Montana, and the northern North Dakota areas as we get into this. So by the time this is all said and done, if this comes together and we're into early December, well, we've flipped the switch from fall and we're into winter. That's what the snowfall forecast looks like from Saturday through Monday as that cold, moist air comes off the Pacific. So lots to talk about for a change. We'll have more for you tomorrow.